You're listening to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast, the podcast that keeps your practice sharp and your clients happy. I'm your host, immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and every week we're bringing you insights, tips, and real-world conversations with top immigration attorneys and industry leaders. Whether you're here to grow your practice, stay on top of the latest trends, or get inspired, you're in the right place. Ready? Let's go. Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 404 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. We're doing a wonderful interview with our colleague Larry Drumm, who is a practitioner at BAL for many years, getting things up running over there. Now, it's a small practice, and interestingly, it's really involved in immigration tech, which we discuss a lot about. And he's one of the people behind the scenes at the fall conference speaking there. Going to be in Boston for the AILA conference, and with the focus on the innovation panel that's happening. They're talking about people bringing new tech to the immigration space. So, a really interesting listen if you're trying to run your practice more efficiently. We go with some tips and discussions about that. I think you'll enjoy it. If you want more tips and information just like this, you can join our private community page. If you're a lawyer, just email us, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com with your bar information. We can add you there. Again, it's free videos, content, white labeled content, discussion pages, and the like for the immigration community, a way to get off Facebook, have our own private community where we can share our tips and ask for guidance and questions and all that. Again, email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Having said all that, none of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an immigration attorney about your case. Well, let's get it started. Hi, Larry. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, John, very nice to meet you in this way. I know we've followed each other a lot on LinkedIn.
I appreciate that. So let's kind of give you some background for people to know and learn more about you. Where did you grow up and how did you find your way into immigration law?
I'm a native of the Bay Area, actually the same high school as Tom Hanks, Skyline High School in Oakland, California. I have grew up there, and my mom is a second generation Italian immigrant. I always had immigration around me.
hmm
Her lasagna was known all around the neighborhood as being the best. One of my best friends was a half Japanese, and one of my best educators when I was young was a German immigrant who was a fantastic teacher who ended up retiring as a principal. So immigration was always around me as a kid. And then language came into my life, and I got this sudden passion to learn foreign language. And I started learning Japanese for a quarter, then I learned Chinese. And all of that kind of came together in law school. So in law school, I hang out with mostly the Asian interest groups, because they have this rich culture. And I ended up volunteering also at the Asian Law Caucus my second year, and I loved it. It's basically an immigration clinic, and they would come to you with like 15 million questions. You would consult with the immigration attorney,
Yeah.
go back and deliver the advice to them. That was really, really exciting. I ended up actually volunteering them for 10 years after I started my practice as well. So I really did enjoy that. So my first job actually out of law school with my degree and my bar was at a Chinese focused immigration practice, doing mostly investor petitions for people in China and Taiwan and all around the area there. So I got a chance to really use my Mandarin. And then my second job, which people know me for the best, was at BAL. Now, we talk about startups. BAL was just a startup at that time. It was just a startup. I was like the 11th attorney
Wow.
that they hired, basically, as they were starting to grow that practice and scale it. So it was an exciting ride, helping to build the firm from 11 attorneys to now it's like 150
Yeah.
in the space of a few years. Very, very exciting to do that. So that's what led me to start my own practice, where I get to use my interest in culture, language, but also kind of tailor it more towards the client experience.
Mhm.
One thing about handling the biggest volume immigration is you don't have a lot of time to spend with each individual
Yeah.
client, which was something that I was really missing. So that's why I started my own practice last year.
Yeah, that's one of the things I enjoy most of my practice. I'm like myself an associate is the amount of, some people don't like it. They prefer to be away from the clients. To each his own, but I really enjoy, even like I was talking to a client this memo came out this morning about discretion on good moral character. No, I'm sorry. It was like about if you say anti-Israel stuff, it can hurt your case, terrorism, Americanism, all that kind of stuff. And then there
Yeah,
was a
right. This
good
is
moral
the
character.
naturalization memo, right?
Which one?
Naturalization memo.
Yeah, naturalization memo. There was another memo today that came out, the updated policy manual that says if you're seeing anti-American stuff. And so the naturalization memo was one that scared them because they're like, "Oh, and they do an adjustment." I'm like, no, this doesn't apply to you directly. Plus, you haven't done anything that's bad. But it was just be able to spend 8 minutes on the phone with them to calm them down and seeing like the relief and how appreciative they were. I'm like, oh wow, this is like nice job we do. And thankfully, they didn't have issues, so it's easy to tell you're okay and calm them down. But it's a very pleasurable experience being there for people like that.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that, BAL still had a focus on client interaction, but I had to train my paralegals to do that,
Yeah,
so I didn't get all the joy of working with the clients, but they did, so it was
yeah,
still very client focused. There were still lots of phone calls, it's just that they weren't necessarily with me.
yeah,
And
definitely.
so it's transitioning from that, the highest volume practice in the
Yeah.
country probably,
I mean,
to doing my own work with individual investors and other clients, small and medium businesses. I'm really enjoying that client
yeah.
interaction.
I mean, there's things BL could do that no one else could do, or maybe two or three other firms could do. So it's like they really take care of certain aspects. Like if a company comes to me, I can't do anywhere. I can't do 50, 100 H1Bs at once. There's only a few companies that can really do that, and they've developed a really good system for that. But I'm going to back it up. Actually, you mentioned you're working that the Asia Pacific for investments. This was in the 1990s era.
Well, yeah, when I first passed my bar, I was actually started working for the individual. He was hired. I was his first associate. Actually, been working as a solo for many, many years, and he also spoke fluent Mandarin, and so he needed someone to come in and be able to work with his clients on L1s and EB1s, EB5, all those different types of applications that he was processing.
I had kind of a similar beginning of my practice. But the EB5 program in the '90s was a different beast than it is now. What differences have you seen from the different programs you share with people that weren't aware of it?
Well, I think thankfully I had a great mentor there. I mean, it was the wild, wild west. There wasn't very much guidance. Their regulations were not really so forthcoming. So it was really the wild, wild west, and there was a lot going on in terms of trying to document the source of funds, and there was a lot more. Actually, it was a lot freer in those days. It was easier to get currency out of certain Asian countries, whereas right now there's a lot of restrictions. For example, on China, and of course Vietnam has always been a problem. But it was actually a lot easier in some ways to get source of funds because you could do business swaps and other things like
Hmm.
that during those days.
Yeah, the source of funds is such a nightmare that I gave up on EB5 because a lot of people, Iran were coming. I was like, that's not possible. And then Vietnam had the capital controls. You said they've always had that. China, there's always a set random way you can figure it out, but it got harder and harder to a point. That and just the bad adjudications in the sense like you never know what the law is going to be EB5. It makes it so hard to practice that area.
Well, I mean, John, I worked with Chinese, mainland Chinese clients, and there was an RFE guaranteed on almost every case.
Yeah.
I think that was it. So I remember, filing cases in those days, where you'd send over an entire banker's box full of documents that weighed like 20 pounds.
Now, moving forward in your career, you're at BAL for 25 years. So you started as an associate, senior, so your council partner. How's that experience? Is it like because your job essentially was a different job every so many years? I imagine your role completely would have changed every time you rose up the ladder. Could you tell us more about how that went?
Well, I think it's actually, I was just thinking of a good analogy. Analogy is that, you say you have a kid and your baby, and you're carrying the baby. The baby's very light when you first have them. And then you continue to carry them as they grow up, and they get heavier and heavier and heavier. So I think that's the thing, is that as the firm grew, I adapted to it naturally because I didn't really notice it because it was so incremental
Mm.
on a day by day basis. But before I noticed it, I was running 2,000 employee programs with multiple deadlines and multiple
Yeah.
things that could come up. RFPs, requests for proposals, presentations, immigration reports, which take a lot of time for the law firms to run. That's a big thing in BAL and other regulatory firms.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. To me,
I grew up with that. I think that's the big difference. So I didn't really notice it as much because when I started, it was just me, and I had a paralegal, and we worked together, and I was amazed at how the cases got approved so easily, actually, for the brand name companies.
now, like, what what was it? And I don't want to talk about company secrets, but what was it that really let BAL grow so rapidly and become such a powerhouse in our space? Was it like their use of technology is number one, if not number two, or something like that. Is that it's number? I mean, it's also the spirit and the leadership and stuff that are really into it. Is there anything that stood out that let something rise so so largely? If that's the proper way to say it.
Well, yeah, I think it's basically it's never been like multiple firms. It's always been like one firm,
Hmm.
despite the fact that it's grown over the years. So basically, if I feel just as I felt just as responsible for my colleagues, helping my colleagues out in Boston as I did for helping out my other teammates here in San Francisco. I think that mentality of it's just one BAL. I mean, that's actually something that I helped coin for them at one of their retreats is this one BAL concept, which is that hey, we're all one firm, all
Yeah,
working together, and that's something which comes up in all different areas. I mean, like everything is being done the same way across all the different offices. People are being trained
yeah.
the same way across all the different offices. The technology is used the same way in all the different offices. So that's really hard to get if you're, like for something like Fragment, where they didn't start that way. They kind of just built acquiring.
Yeah.
They were the back end for various firms.
Yeah, it makes sense. But just yeah, keeping the culture consistent with that size. In immigration law, it's always notorious that it's hard to scale immigration law. It's always been very difficult. It's always amazing when I see firms able to do it and pull it off and have a great reputation at the same time.
Well, if you wouldn't like the ill if you don't like tech. I mean, basically, technology is really that's why I'm on the tech
Hmm.
committee is because I still love technology. I remember way, way back. I mean, there was status check, which a lot of people check their status online, probably in 2000 or something
Hmm.
like that, like early days. But I remember the day that we used to have a separate program for forms, separate from the case management, and this one actually it was a paralegal that got promoted into tech that created the forms integration into what was their Visa base at the time. And I must say, I didn't work on a lot of cases at the time. I still had paralegals, but I had to do a case and I pushed the button and those forms generated and tears came to my eyes. I was just so enraptured by the fact that I wouldn't have to do double, triple data
Yeah.
entry anymore or review double, triple data entry anymore.
Yeah, again, although it's a complicated system with all the form changes that happen, it's like it could break easily with the way the government designs their PDFs and all that kind of stuff. But it's a game changer. When I finally got a form software myself, I was like, oh wow, like that's especially if the client fills out some of it because we had a recent client who had a bunch of typos in there. And in the past, when we didn't have systems, so like blame us. I'm like, no, that was you that misspelled your name, not us. We should have probably caught some of it, but like I think it was like his mom's spelling of his name, but we wouldn't know any better. I mean, kind of the birth certificate, but there's different levels of checking we do, I guess. But it was helpful.
Well, I mean, technology today is a lot better than it was, back then. And I think that's the thing is that, but the case system is also entrenched in my memory too. Is that every case is defined by different stages. What stage are you in? What are the
Yeah.
appropriate activities for the stage? I've lived that for so many years, driven paralegals like that for so many years. So it's also just the philosophy behind driving the cases that's built into your
Hmm.
system. Unfortunately, the technology that's out there right now is sorely lacking in comparison.
Uh,
This is why I started this tech journey of my own to see what's out there, and this allows me to shape things a little bit too. Part of this tech committee is selecting some of the most interesting, some of the most promising companies. Like for example, last year, I don't know if you interviewed the fellow from Candle AI, but they were one of the ones that we
mhm.
picked. And they had this really long description of what their company was all about. I looked at it and I said, wait a minute, these guys are promising to automate email and pull in information from the database for email. That's their whole product
Yeah.
right now, basically. That's their whole product. So this actually shaped the way that they develop their product.
Hey, everybody, I'm going to jump in really quick to remind you of our private community page. Not only does it have all the free conduct products, such as, AEO decisions with AI review, white label content, CLE sessions, and videos. We also have premium courses there, marriage green cards, how to start your own practice with that, E2 investor visa, EB1A extraordinary ability cases, and the like. You'll get to know these cases and add them to your repertoire to expand your practice. Join us. Just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com if you're a U.S. lawyer, and we'll get you added, include your bar information. Have you said that? Let's get back to the show. Definitely. Yeah. Ruby Powers was telling me that she's like an early adopter. She's like testing it out with them and
Yeah.
using it. I met them at the AILA conference. I did a quick recording with them, did a demo. It's very interesting stuff. I was telling people you have to do a demo to see what it means because I was like, I don't understand what it means. You write the email, but it's cool. You pull it up. There's a sidebar that comes up. So it's very interesting things they're pulling out.
Well, it's this kind of thing which I needed as an attorney. So basically, like you could, which is why I have two or three screens, you could never answer a travel question without
Yeah.
checking everything, basically. And travel questions came up every
Hmm.
5 minutes within the practice. So, it's the kind of thing where being able to pull the information and put it into an email without having to do it manually yourself will save a lot of
Now,
time.
to the extent you could talk about what happened that you decided to start your own firm, and how does the makeup of your firm look like now? Are you going to scale it, or are you keeping it small?
I actually so the BAL was quite a wonderful experience. It was extremely challenging. That's the one thing about it is growth is really one of the driving factors at
Hmm.
BAL. It's always growing, always doing more, always doing better. I decided I wanted to have a little more personal time, a little more balance in my work
Yeah.
and life, and I also wanted more time with my clients. And so that's perfect for this solo that I'm doing right now because I get to work with my own clients, get to choose and
Yeah.
pick who I work with. And most of the people are referrals. So I kind of either know them already or know them through someone that I really care about. So it's been a really pleasant transition. And yeah, I don't miss waking up to 100 emails every morning.
I'm sure you'll get there pretty soon again because the email is just even the junk email and stuff. It just overflows to people. One problem I have is like when I do an L1 case. Clients will, I want to sign up right now. Let's get started. And then 4 months go by, nothing. And then in one day, they send 20 emails. I'm just like, I don't know how to manage that situation. That's what makes it frustrating. I do a lot of business cases. I don't know if you see the same thing.
Well, then you're further to me, John. I'll take your L1s. That's my favorite classification. I remember actually a lot of the cases I was doing when I first started practicing were L1s for Chinese startups. And so I had that experience. And then when I first started at BAL, I exclusively handled all of their L1s for probably 1 or 2 years, basically. So I basically worked on all of the stuff, all the blankets, all of everything for all of their clients. And then, of course, I started doing other things as well, but I love new office L1s and, just connecting with the clients. Like I just had one recently, which was mid-sized Asia company. It was distributed all over Asia in terms of their operations. And I was working with a C-level executive. And they needed a business plan, but they didn't want to get a lease. So they were working with one of these new Regis
Hmm.
business centers. And so I'm like, okay, well, we can document that, get at least, your office, get your signage, get some
Yeah.
seats, the capitalization. Basically, all of that stuff is like
Hmm.
natural to me in terms of thinking about it, like how he can leverage his foreign employees in the process of doing
Yeah.
the L1. I mean, I automatically think about the org chart and how that's going to look. And of course, it was, approved without RFE, and he's coming to the US in a week. So, all of that is just gives me a
Yeah. I
lot of
mean,
joy,
I
helping the
I like
client
L1s
start to finish.
because it is my favorite category because the clientele is more sophisticated. Even E2s. E2s, a lot of times they want to start a business, kind of like, oh, let's see what happens. The L1s, they already have a business going that's successful, so their mindset is really good. The RFEs drive me crazy, especially when they ask for stuff we already sent them. And that's just like, but they just create the org charts and the business plan and the 5 year projections. New office, my specialty. I would say it's a love hate relationship. It's and the hate part is from the RFEs and the things that they ask for. That's like we already gave, or breaking down the job duties. Like, how much more specific do you want me to break this down? Like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's the L1 clients, the new office L1 clients I get are also hungry too. So they want
Yeah.
to move fast. And so that I'm not dealing with chasing them for 4 months. Yeah, to get something. I have an E2 which has been sitting on the back burner for
Yeah.
several months because, the fellow's already had like 2 or 3 startups. I've got him an E2 like
Yeah.
15 years ago, and he's coming back for more. He's just too busy. He's speaking at seminars all
Hmm.
over the world right now, and he's too busy to deal with it right now. But we'll get to it. We get to it, and maybe I'll convince him to do the L1
Well, you're a
instead.
tech guy, and L1 is in all immigration is document intensive. Are you testing out or adopting any document collection systems or anything particular? We just ask people send it to Dropbox and we'll organize it, but it takes time. I haven't found out a good solution that's like easy enough for me to use. Have you been testing anything or looking at anything?
No, there's actually two very good document collection solutions, which you may have seen at the AILA conference. The first one
Mhm.
is Pipefile, and the second one is Pigeon. Pipe File is the one that I currently use, and they're actually going to be part of the Innovator Showcase
Hmm.
in Boston. And it's extremely easy to use. I always do a checklist. So I put the checklist, there's an AI component which basically reads my checklist and creates all the buckets
Hmm.
in it. And then it sends it over, and the link goes over to the client, and the client puts all the information exactly where I need it. And then if there's an issue with something, I can accept it, I can reject it, I can comment, talk back and forth on the document itself. So it's great for those document intensive L1s and
Yeah.
L2s. And Pigeon's very, very similar. I mean, I just started one
I
version
didn't get a
of that.
chance to talk with Pigeon, but I've tested them. And just while I was doing it, I shouldn't test stuff on my own. I should just have demos done with me. But I was like, this seems like just as much work as a Dropbox. But I must be wrong because I know Nadine Heights uses it. Cassini and my robot. They both spoke about how well, and they do a lot of EB1A stuff too. So those are also document intensive. And so it's definitely, I'm definitely doing it. Just you getting a lawyer to adopt technology, even when they want to, is just like you got to really push them into it.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing is like, the adoption of technology, BAL has always been very tech forward, but the problem has always been that, there's rank and file. The people that drive the firm are not the
Yeah.
attorneys, it's the paralegals. And so technology introduction had to be very, very specific, a lot of training modules, a lot of firm-wide direction. For example, when the transition from the what's it called, BISA based to Cobalt was occurring, there was a lot of things going on there, and so we had to support our teams to manage that adaptation. So it's definitely one of those things where some people are not so
Yeah.
tech forward as
I
others.
I, I want to be tech forward, but I go kicking and screaming, dragging my heels into it. But it's got to do it 'cause every time when you're done with it, it's like, oh, I wish I did that sooner. Like, but it's a mental bit block. So you're a part of the committee for the upcoming fall conference. We do a lot of work with AILA in particular, but you're on the tech committee, and is it business management as well for the fall conference?
So this is the Tech and Innovation
Hmm.
Committee for the fall conference. And so our job is to put together the program. So let me
Please
just
do.
tell you about this. So on Thursday, the 11th of September, it's going to be a whole day of technology. We start with your immigration firm AI ready,
But
with a
really
felt
quick, this
staff
is the fall
assessment
conference in Boston, Massachusetts, where it's going to be.
in Boston, Massachusetts. But it's also be available
Oh, neat.
virtual, so you don't have to go in person. Unless you're missing the great Boston food there and also the sightseeing. Uh, your immigration firm AI ready is the first session. Perfect first impressions. And this would interest you, John. It's all about intake,
Yeah.
making intake feel human while it's still automated. And then we move into one of the bigger topics right now, which is digital deception. There's a lot going on right now in terms of AI that's got its pros and it's got its cons. Your client, you have to make sure they're presenting you with authentic
Hmm.
documents because there could be a
Oh, wow. I didn't
deceiving
think about that.
document there. I mean, there's a lot of fraud going on in a lot of categories right now. We'll have a live drafting lab about building your law firm's AI policy, government use of AI, and then at the end of the day, of course, the innovation showcase, which I'll be
Very
leading the
cool. Are you
three.
speaking at any of the of this panels yourself?
I'll be speaking at the
Beautiful.
innovation showcase, basically, and
Have you already
talking about
chosen who's the
that.
winner?
There's no winner.
Oh, they just
These are
okay,
all winners,
okay.
basically.
Well, very cool, very cool.
Yeah, there's no winner of it. This is not like, where there's like one picked via audience or anything like this. Is basically a curated submission process which occurs, and then the companies submit their proposals, and we'll have 8 different companies presenting what they've done, which
Very
is
cool. So,
innovative.
what are your innovation tech plans look like in the next 6 months? Are they immediate and medium term? What are I mean, you talked a little about testing out Pigeon and stuff like that, and about the Candle AI's email system. Any other thing that you're on the verge of getting into or thinking about?
I think that I'm looking for a better system. I mean, I currently use this product which everybody else uses, I think, called Docket Wise, which is it's good because it allows for communication in the
Yeah.
questionnaire, and that's the main reason I like it. Otherwise, it's just, I mean, all of these are somewhat unwieldy. And I think that we're on the verge now of a lot of these AI companies that are offering like Case Blink or Parley, all these companies that you've
Hmm.
seen over there, Drafty AI, as they get more and more investment, they're going to start building questionnaires and solutions into
Yeah.
their systems as well too, on top of their AI engines. And that's probably going to be the sea change that I'm looking for. I don't know if it's going to be 6 months or a year or 2 years, but I think that's going to happen. And that's going to be great because why should anyone need to type in all this information when the
Hmm.
documents are all
I
there?
actually met one firm on the last day of that conference. It was a practitioner, I think, in Santa Fe or New Mexico, and he created his own AI system for his own cases, and I think it's called Alcanza or something like that. I might pronounce it wrong. I'm gonna be talking more with him, but it's all AI. He's like, I'm doing my firm, but it's just one of those things like to learn a new case management system is like it's like, oh, we gotta sit because it just even learning DocWise, it take a while to go press all the buttons, to find stuff you like, don't like. It just becomes a burdensome thing, but it's worth it once you're done with it.
Well, see, that's the difference is that AI can contemplate the steps and the processes, so you don't have
True.
to learn all of this stuff. Because I'm familiar with this. I mean, the reason why I love the technology of AILA was also because I grew up with it, so I knew
Hmm.
where everything was everywhere in the technology. Of course, now I'm using all these new technologies, but AI can program things in a way that you don't have to be an expert in where everything is because it
Yeah.
knows where
You just
everything
ask
is.
it, how do I do this? Yeah.
And by the way, I like Ali Kanza. It's a very, very interesting technology. I've
Oh,
seen
wonderful.
some of
Yeah,
his
so
demos.
but that's gonna be upcoming. And I was interviewing the CEO of Serenade, and he's like, our new AI systems when you want to do a report, because you mentioned the how much work was getting reports when we have BAL. He's like, we have a more intuitive AI kind of system where you ask it what you want and it pulls together data to build reports. So that's gonna be a neat thing.
Well, I think the key about reports, John, is not necessarily about pulling everything together. It's about managing the case. So, like I told you earlier, you have to have the steps in your mind for a case, and you have to train your staff that something isn't done until it's done in the
Yeah.
database. Okay, because all the work can be for naught if they haven't updated the database. So that's the key thing. It's a cleansing sort of thing where you have to basically do data checks, not just for a report, but almost every week or every few days to make sure that the cases are moving along within a large corporate immigration practice. I mean, if you're just doing individual with a small amount of cases, you can monitor them yourself. But when you get to be that big, things will fall through the cracks
Yeah,
unless you
that's
have a
the biggest
system.
nightmare to have a case fall through the crack. You have a thousand cases, but one falls through the crack. It's a certain amount of perfection that we have to do, and it becomes scary.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's a whole reporting group over there with like 10 people that make sure
Yeah,
this is
interesting
happens.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, thank you so much for coming on the show. If people wanted to reach out, I'll have your LinkedIn information and link in the show notes. But what's the best place also to check you out? Your website or any social media you like to mention?
I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. I'm also, on the website. I have a wonderful Calendly, which I use.
Yeah,
It's a great technology actually for consultations, whether it's with other attorneys or with my existing clients. I love it. So all of these ways you get to reach me, and actually, 100% of my business it's not from marketing; it's all from referrals. So it's one of those things where I love working with other attorneys. I know most of the
hmm,
attorneys in AILA, thanks to 20 years plus all the AILA involvement.
same here.
So it's
You
great to
mentioned
meet you, John.
Calendly. That was one that a friend of mine had to like push me to get for 2 years, and I was like, I can't believe I didn't use that. Now when I see lawyers that manually calendar, I'm like, are you crazy? Why would I use Calendly? I'm just the.
I mean, I had that before I was scheduling consultations. I just said, "Oh,
Mhm.
this is
On
a
your I
game
went and
changer."
checked out your consultation page. You have like a 15, 30 minutes and an hour long consultation. For your 15-minute, how often could you keep it within the 15 minutes and have the people kind of push it longer or something like that?
I view these as kind of like just signposts. Sometimes people will schedule a 15 and it'll
Yeah.
go on for 30 or something like that. I mean, I generally try to
Hmm.
overgive to my clients in terms of the time. And there's sometimes people that send
Yeah.
a really quick question on that. A lot of I don't have a menu there. I have a separate menu in my Calendly for referrals. And if somebody's, if a close friend is referring someone, I'm not going to charge for that. So I have free consultations for those, which are
Right, right.
15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. something like that. So, I mean, the Calendly is not just what it's on the website. That's just for the general public,
Yeah.
but I also have my
And
own
I also have a Chrome
separate
extension
menu.
for Calendly, so I just click on that and find the special off or one-off link to it, so it doesn't the free consultation link doesn't get spread out. Just it's the one-time use kind of things neat that it has.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Well,
Yeah,
wonderful. So stay on the line
exactly.
for a couple minutes afterwards. We'll talk more, but
Wonderful.
I really appreciate you coming on the show, Larry.
All right. Great to meet you.
All right. Thank you so much, Larry, for joining us. What a wonderful session. I learned a lot from that. I kind of forgot that he was at BAL for so many years. I was just focused more on his current work, but it was a good little epiphany that popped up. I'm like, oh yeah, it's good to know more about our colleagues. LinkedIn is such a great page for connecting with people. If you haven't already, you really should join a lot of people's LinkedIn pages, follow them. And if you see they're posting interesting stuff, just reach out and connect to them. There's nothing more important in immigration law than connecting with colleagues. So much data, information, tips, relationships, friendships that emerge from it. This whole podcast is a testament to it. So I do definitely recommend that. If you haven't already, follow us on LinkedIn. We have a lot of information we post there as well. And connect with the show with us, and we'll take it from there. Have a great one, guys. If you like this episode, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, where we post the latest statistics, tips, and more. And stay tuned for more from the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast.